Okay. Well, this is my first live in YouTube, and I am going live on both Instagram and YouTube. And today, hey everyone, here we're talking about consistency. And the reason why this is such an important subject is because a lot of us struggle with being consistent. Yet many people talk about in order for you to see results and be successful at anything, what is the one thing that has to happen? Consistency. However, I come here today to give you a different perspective on consistency. The way I see it, there's different types of consistency. And society, more than anything, has sort of injected us or taught us the idea of traditional consistency, right? And so today I just wanted to talk to you guys about, is your consistency really working out for all of the things that you are trying to do? Like, think about the last time that you set a goal, okay? I'm talking to both cameras, so I'm gonna put this right here. I think this is gonna be better. Yes, okay. So think about the last time that you set yourself a goal, right? And you were very consistent and diligent about achieving that goal. This is the perfect time to talk about that because finally the last week in January, things are actually moving forward, right? And we're all trying to get back on track into some sort of beginning, right? Now, consistency, though, can be seen in many different ways. And I'm not here to say traditional consistency doesn't work at all. What I want to do is to open up the dialogue so that we can start investigating what does it really work for me? Because I really want to be able to set into some sort of pattern and repeated action towards a vision or a dream that I have, right? Now, the first step about seeing these two different columns of differentiation. One, I'm going to call traditional consistency. And the other one, I'm going to call energetic consistency, okay? Sometimes I call that column cycle syncing, which means we're consistent as long as we are syncing with our cycles. And I'm going to talk a lot about what those cycles are, okay? So the main difference that I want us to see is that what we're looking for is a combination, a really good combination that's tailor-made for us. Because the most important part is that there is no more one formula fits all. So when we see all those posts about, you have to work it out and do it anyways, like, if you feel the fear, do it anyways. If you go to the gym and you don't feel like it, do it anyways because motivation is not going to be there always. All of those things are really sort of ideal in theory, but the truth is that we are all very different based on our subconscious patterns, based on our ages, based on where we live, based on many other things that influence us. Sometimes, and this is always changing, what happens is we're not always able to do the things the same way. So how do we manage to find that repeated action even under all that influence? And that's what I want to talk about today. So what's the main point? The main point is I'm not ditching traditional consistency altogether. No, what I'm saying is, just like we're doing with masculine and energy and yin and yang that we always talk about, we want to put together a lot of things that are going to help us find the right formula of consistency for us, okay? And how do I do that? must be your question. That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. And mainly, we're going to sort of revise ourselves and see, oh, okay, that's me. That could be helpful for me. Or that doesn't work for me. Or I've tried that before, or I haven't tried it enough. So we're here to check in with ourselves because maybe there is one thing that you are not really thinking about when you're thinking about consistency, right? Okay, we got that, right? One formula doesn't fit all, and we're tailoring our own combination of how to be consistent. Now, number two, we're going to talk about habits because habits is what we're really trying to be consistent at, right? In order to achieve certain things. And so the main thing that we're going to talk about in those two columns are habits. And what's my relationship with habits? What's my relationship with the habits that I want to nurture, keep nurturing, install? What are my relationship with the habits that I'm not good at all? I've never started, but I want to start with. And what is my relationship with the habits that are bad habits and I actually want to stop doing them, right? So when we talk about habits, what I want us to understand is that because we're doing these habits, it's important that we understand where is our fine line between sacrificing, right? Between grinding, between that hard work belief, okay? This is where it all starts. There is very ingrained belief that says, in order for me to be consistent, I have to work hard, right? You see that? Consistency, work hard. And the more I work and the harder I work, the more I will be consistent, which in turn is going to bring me more success. Has that worked for you so far? That's the question. Because if that has worked for you, that's okay. That's okay. It could work for you. I'm not saying it wouldn't work for you. It could. That's why we're here to sort of check in with ourselves, right? And sometimes that works for us in a specific categories. In other categories, it doesn't, right? And so let's talk a little bit about that belief. If that's a belief that really aligns with your values, that's great. If you're not sure, this is a really good time to say, hey, is this, do I believe that only through hard work can I get to the place where I want? Right? Can I get consistent? And remember that quote that Ford said once, if you believe it, it's true. And if you don't believe it, it's also true. Meaning what comes true is what we believe in. So ultimately, you will be consistent based on what's aligned within your beliefs. And that's the most important part. Okay. So just putting that out there for us to check in with ourselves. Okay. Now, in my case, okay, I don't believe that hard work necessarily is what I want to do in order to achieve consistency. Now, here's something very important to understand. A lot of times, hard work, because it's at the level of behavior, it's going to show immediate result. But that result is not necessarily permanent. It's not a change on character or on transformation on your inner programming, on your perspective, on the way you see life. Okay, I'll give you an example in just a second. But instead, it's just a result that we see in this tangible world, but it's not permanent. And furthermore, it's not really contributing to fulfillment and meaning in your life. Okay, let's put a couple examples. Examples on the basic, things that we can all relate to, right? Which is the basic foundation of habits that we want, which is eating well, exercising, sleeping well, and all that. So if I want to eat better, let's say I'm not eating well. Okay, now I want to eat better. What I am proposing is that we start changing the formula of how I can get consistent with this habit, meaning I don't throw it away after 3 weeks, right? But that it also changes my lifestyle and transform the perspective and my relationship with food. Okay. I want those two things because those things are going to be last longer. They're also going to instill meaning, right? They're going to go deeper. They're going to make a significant change and transformation within me. Yeah. And ultimately, I want to enjoy that process. Yeah. And so here are the two ways of doing it. If I'm doing it with traditional consistency, right, I'm just going to follow a diet and do pretty much every day the same thing. So repetition and traditional consistency is what we want, right? So meaning I'm going to eat a toast of bread and my orange juice and whatever it is in the mornings and then the afternoons. And then next week, I'll bring a little bit of variety and I'll keep going into this diet along with exercises. And this is how I'm going to make my change. Notice that if I just apply that traditional consistency, something might happen later on. We've all experienced this, right? Something might happen later on. Even if nothing happens and I'm able to continue, let's say for a year, and now I eat much better after a year, chances are is that this change hasn't really clicked, right? Meaning something might happen in my life after that year, right? Where I end up changing and going back to my old habits. Maybe I travel. Maybe some sort of tragedy comes in, an illness or something, and I go bounce back into my old self. Okay. Another thing too is like if I change my habits only, right? Chances are is that I'm not really enjoying this new diet, or I'm not really enjoying the food, or I'm not really, I'm just doing it for the sake of just getting this result. Okay. Now, what's the other point of view here? The other point of view is doing the energetic cycling consistency. What would that look like? Well, that would look like checking in with what is my relationship to food in a broader way. Okay. This means food goes back to my inner programming of my relationship to my mother with the feminine, right? Is that healthy in my life? Is my relationship with my mother healthy? See how deep we're going, right? Why are we going this deep? Why is this necessary? Because my inner programming is always was actually making the decisions for me. So 90% of my behavior, it's ruled by my inner programming. So if I only change the behavior without changing the inner programming, then I'm not really changing anything, and that's going to bounce back to me, right? I want to do the transformation from the core, right? And so checking in with that, yeah, very organically, just checking in with that. How is my relationship with my mother? How is it that it's, food and all that I'm ingesting is related to the beginning of my years, or more likely to my lineage? Okay. The other thing is to my age, where I'm living, the weather. Is it hemisphere north or is it the south hemisphere? All of that, because I'm a mammal, I'm an animal that needs different things that somebody that's 15 years old and it's living in Alaska, right? All of that has to do with what I am going to eat. I'm going to check in on my digestion, okay? I'm going to check in on, is my gut really healthy right now? Is it really digesting what I give it? Are the vitamins that I'm ingesting really being absorbed by my body? Can I do a blood test to check in what are my levels and check in where I'm at in terms of my health? Okay. All of those things matter into the sense of what I'm going to be cooking with my hands. The more I do the work with my hands and the more I cook with my hands, the more I get into that cycle syncing energy. Do you see the difference? One thing is I'm just going to follow this diet that this person says I should do because my friend did it and had good results, right? And everybody's having good results with this type of diet. And another thing is to really take the time and really take more the energy to investigate how can I, together with my environment, get into that sync of what's happening in my body, right? If you look at nature, you'll realize, right, that obviously fruits don't blossom. Fruits don't blossom, but fruits are not available in nature all year round, right? It depends on whether you are the flowers, the trees, insects, animals. They all have their own routine that it's based on nature's cycle. So do I, right? So do we. And so if I am a woman, I'm going to be ruled by the moon. If I am a man, I'm going to be ruled by the sun. But I'm also ruled by the sun in the sense that my digestion is best when it's noon, for example. And so I need to eat certain foods at that time. And so this, of course, takes longer, but it is a process that involves learning about yourself, that involves understanding yourself. And it is in that link that we find the consistency. And the consistency comes within energy patterns and energy cycles, right? Whether it comes from the outer world, meaning nature, or whether it comes from our inner cycles, depending on whatever we are processing at that time. And so this is a good time to, check in with yourself and see like, oh, okay, if I, for example, I'm hibernating every winter, that means I'm eating more rooted legumes and more foods that are more close to earth, right? Because I need that balance, the energetic balance within me. I might not be exercising that much because in hibernation, I need to exercise in a different way. But I also need to exercise in a different way because I am 47 years old. But I also need to exercise in a different way when it's indoors or when it's outdoors, right? What is it that I like when I move? All of those cycles are going to be available for you if you are aware of them. In traditional consistency, what we do is we ignore all of those cycles and we only focus on repeat, no matter what. No matter if you feel motivated, no matter if this aligns with your body or not, no matter if it's January or if it's November, no matter where you're living in the world. Yeah? So that is pretty much the main difference. So point number 3, okay, we talked about we want something tailor-made. We talked about the main difference on habits. Yeah. And the point number 3 that it's very important to think about is that we want something that is sustainable. Okay, the moment that traditional consistency is not sustainable for us, the moment that happens, right, then we're not going the long term and then we're not transforming internally. What that means is that chances are we're not creating fulfillment and we're not creating meaning. And so at the end, I might accomplish a lot of things, right? If I'm very consistent, let's say I am going to be an insurance agent, right? And I am trying to be really consistent on my work because consistency is what's going to bring me the money that I want. Consistency is going to bring me the role that I want to achieve. Consistency is what's going to bring me, all the dreams and travels that I have with my family. Okay. So that means I'm going to show up every day. I'm going to do videos on YouTube every day. I'm going to do things every day, no matter whether I'm motivated or not, because I just need to be consistent and work hard. Okay. So what happens with that is, like, maybe fast forward 10 years and this person achieved it. Okay. They got to do all the traveling that they needed. They got to buy the house, right? They got to do all the things that they wanted to do with this plan. Yeah. Now, what I want us to sort of reflect a little bit on is that this is the typical race to achieve a goal, but that in the end, the journey, if we're not aware enough, if we're not awake enough, the journey, it's really sort of like passing us by without us really being present on what's going on. Because we're not paying it. Why I say we're not being present? Because if I am doing something, even when I'm not motivated to do it, but I'm not really like stepping in and saying, okay, what is it that I'm feeling right now? Do I need to change course? Do I need to, it's just me reparenting myself, paying attention to myself. Presence, it's what's going to bring me the significance of the moment, the transformation of the moment, and the fulfillment, right? So that's how I'm gaining meaning in life. That's why I am evolving. It's not through only just checking in the arrival of the destination, arrival of the goal, right? It is the process of being present through the journey, right? And so the moment that I don't care whether I'm motivated or not, or whether I'm just going because I need that goal, the moment that I am risking feeling fulfilled. So 10 years later, right? 10 years later, I might, chances are, if I just live that life without really paying attention to what was going on, right? I might feel that deep void. And this is what happens to a lot of people in the age of the anxiety and depression epidemic, right? It's like, I'm not going back to my unresolved traumatic with capital T or lower T experiences. I'm not going back beyond just changing my behavior to see a result. I'm not being present within my transformation. So yes, I'm achieving those goals. Great, I'm having those results. Yes, I checked in the destination, but I'm feeling lost. I'm feeling something's missing. I'm feeling that everything looks pretty, but it doesn't feel good. I'm feeling stuck emotionally. Yeah. That's not what we're here for. That's not what we came for. That's why traditional consistency alone, it's very risky long term. Yeah. Reparenting, theme of this week. Yes. Have you heard this word a lot this week? Yeah, you just came here and you heard it. Great. So what are we looking for? We're looking for a formula that is sustainable long term, okay? Because traditional consistency is sustainable only for temporary chunks of time, right? So we're treating ourselves as a robot pretty much and saying, do. Who cares about the extras, the emotions, the journey, all of that, right? Who cares about everything that's in your inner programming, only to see that we're just not satisfied because we're not rewiring that programming that's no longer serving us, right? I hope that's making sense and that this inspires you to check in with yourself, right? So what does the energetic type of consistency require of us? So one of the things that it requires of us is adapting to our inner desires and to hunches, right? So that we can shift when it's necessary. We can detour when it's necessary. We can show up aligned and congruent as much as possible. It also requires a lot of courage, because in order for me to be consistent with what I'm feeling inside and what is changing and being present, I am going to have to say a lot of no's. I am going to have to decline on things I thought I really want. I am going to have to create a lot of space and a container within myself. So I'm going to spend a lot of time with myself, right? I'm going to have a lot of patience with the uncertainty of the creative process. All of those things are not instant satisfaction qualities, right? Yet traditional consistency, it's ruled by instant satisfaction. Yeah, it's ruled by repeated action, strategy every day, regardless of how I feel, regardless of my shadows and my lights, regardless of how other people feel, regardless of whether I'm betraying myself, regardless, right, of everything that's internally happening in my internal world. I am in traditional consistency only wanting to pay attention to the outer world. What is my tactics, my actions producing in the outer world, right? If somebody's happy in the outer world, great. If I get a prize, great. If I'm getting rewarded, great. If somebody's mad in the outer world, I don't care. If somebody's, firing me because of I'm gonna keep going. I don't care. Because I'm disconnected from my inner GPS, my inner guidance. Yeah. And so it is, in a way, looking like I'm very courageous because I keep doing it, I'm strong, and I have the strength and I work hard. But in the end, I'm not really being consciously courageous with my own shifting, that with my own learning and my own journey that's happening inside of me. Yeah. So now, can we see what we want today is to see how these are two different things and see how and when can I combine one. So to give you an example, that typical scenario that a lot of people talk about, right? You ever heard this quote that says, discipline, it's doing it anyways, right? Because motivation, it's not going to be there always, right? So you need to have the discipline to do it every day. So that comes from, no pain, no gain, right? This is sort of like you need to go through the pain of doing things when it's hurting, doing things when you're not there, doing things when you don't feel like it, so that you can gain something. That's what traditional consistency says, right? Now, your question might be, because I've asked this question myself, and this is a very important practice to understand the term inspired action. So what happens if I say to myself, I want to exercise every day or every other day, and after 2 weeks, I wake up one day, I'm not feeling that well, I don't feel like doing it. Okay, I don't want to go. What do? Traditional consistency says, well, if you don't go, you're not disciplined enough, because you need to go even when you don't feel like it, right? Now, what does energetic consistency say in that situation? Well, what traditional consistency is missing is that we have the ability, once we practice a lot, but it is possible and it is always available. We have an ability to make a conscious decision in that moment based on our alignment. Okay, what does that mean? That means that if we are present, we're able to recognize what is our intuition telling us, our inner GPS, that strong wisdom within us that was born with us when we were kids and was guiding us all the way. Or, right? Or is it our ego that is talking to us. This is why it's so important to understand the differences between these two voices. Yeah. Because in that moment, one, I can say, oh, I know how to rewire right away this thought, this belief that is making me do certain thing. And I'm going to rewire that so that I can take inspire action instead of making this action with a whole different frequency that I don't want to expand. Yeah. Because frequencies and energy are very important for cycle syncing consistency, right? So I don't want to show up at the gym with that inner dialogue that's saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm here. I'm cold. I'm not feeling well. I'm just going to sit here and look at my phone and see." You never do this. You always say you're going to do it, but you never. So that's the cleaning that I have to do, right? I get to clean out my inner dialogue, rewire, delete, and reset. If I'm yet not able to do that, okay, because this takes practice and it takes a little bit of work in realignment and it takes presence, it takes awareness. That means your lifestyle needs to include meditation and other practices so that you can first catch yourself and second, really shift so that you're always, as much as you can, in integrity, meaning taking action based on what you feel, what you say, and what you're doing are going the same way, right? Not I'm going to the gym, but I don't want to go. Okay, that's not what we want, because that inner incongruence, it's going to expand into different results in life, right? Because that energy that I am intensely putting out by being there and taking action and focusing so much on it, it's an incongruent energy. And somehow, right, that is expanding and creating a ripple effect in my life. So I don't really want to create effect. That doesn't mean I don't get to be tired or I don't get to be confused or unmotivated. No, that means that when I am all or one of those things, I get to acknowledge it, notice it, right? And then make a conscious decision, not a reaction. See the difference? One thing is to react, right? To hear that voice that says, "You're so lazy," and just grab your things and mad and go to the gym. That's a reaction, right? That is you identifying, or me identifying with my ego thoughts, with my inner programming, either or. And instead, I can hear that voice and say, this is not really the voice that I want to follow along. So let me check in with myself, whether I have 5 minutes, whether I have 10, 20, right? Maybe I decide I'm just going to do some journaling and exercise at 5 p.m. and that works. Maybe I do the journaling and decide I'm staying home because my body needs it. Maybe I don't have time to do the journaling, so I just sit in my car 2 minutes and consciously make a decision that is congruent and aligned in that moment, and so on. But do you see that, the practice is going to give us options, and the space that we're creating between the stimuli and the reaction, it's going to give us a lot more ability to make a conscious decision instead of reacting, right? So in this case, what does the energetic consistency require of us? It requires of us befriending the uncertainty that comes with that incongruence, right? But we have to take the risk of that uncertainty, right? So I would say, like, the saying of that would be no risk, no magic, right? What's the risk that I'm taking? The risk that I'm taking is I'm going against the grain of society, and I also don't know how this is going to result. If I sit down for 5 minutes to journal, it's very risky because that's not guaranteeing me that I'm just going to go and take action. See? But I'd rather befriend that uncertainty so that I can hear my inner GPS, so that I can hear my intuition, so that I can really align with what I want to do, and then I can create integrity. Because long term, that type of consistency is going to give me what? Meaning, fulfillment, evolution, transformation, a different lifestyle, not just something that's temporary. Yeah. So those are the main differences. And, you know, one thing that I want to say, if you feel inspired to work deeper on really bringing this sort of like ratio, because it's a ratio. Again, I'm not saying traditional consistency is bad at all. I'm just saying that there is a more healthy ratio that we need to consider between the two types, and that those them together work greater than individually, and that when we over rely on one versus the other one, then we go into those situations where long term we're not really feeling good. Yeah. Always we're using nature as our model. And nature always starts with the feminine, with the intuitive. You think of anything new, any new habit in your life, anything new that's going to be born, any new quality that is coming out in your life, right? All of that has to do with the feminine, because anything new comes through the feminine in nature. Yeah. And so we want to follow nature, and nature follows an energetic cycle syncing consistency, right? The flowers blossom in a consistent way, but not necessarily every day, and never ignoring all other parts of nature. Yeah. Yet we fantasize about this idea that we're separate from nature. So if this is kind of like moving you, and it's helping you reflect about how is it that you're implementing new habits this year, and you want to go deeper into it, I invite you to like this video, share this video, sign up, subscribe to my channel in YouTube. Furthermore, be part of my Luna's membership, where we work a lot in cycle syncing, where we have a masterclass every week. We have an energy circle every week. We have a whole beautiful, intimate community that talks about all these things all the time. Come to one of my classes, whether it's local in San Diego, or whether you really want to get it to the top, we can work one-on-one on my 90-day program. But there are things you can do, and you're not alone, because the thing about the feminine, the energetic cycle syncing, is that it's never as systematic 1, 2, 3 structure as the masculine is. So a lot of times we're craving that, but tell me exactly what I have to do, right? And that's not what we're doing here. What we're doing here is looking within so that we can find our own unique formula, and receiving the guidance not only from somebody like me or a therapist or a community or your friends, but also from nature and from the results that you're taking. Because what we want to do is be able to enhance and strengthen that muscle that says to us, let me look at the situation. What decision is best for me right now? All the time, that's what we're doing. Oh, okay, I want to do this. What decision is best for me right now? Oh, okay, I want to do this. What decision is best for me right now? However, if I am not eating well, eating a bunch of junk, not exercising, feeling overwhelmed, completely unable to concentrate, right? Not even and not even ever looked at any of my unresolved childhood traumas, any of my unresolved inner programming, limiting beliefs, then it's really challenging for you by yourself to be able to install any habit, not even with traditional consistency. And that's probably, if if in any way this is a case for you, and a lot of us have been there, right? I have been there. You probably feel very frustrated with traditional consistency because you can never ever be able to commit in the way that traditional consistency in society wants you to commit. You cannot really participate of the things that are usually put out there because you know you can't really be able to commit. You can't do a whole course at your own pace because you know you'll drop it and to do that, right? You can't commit to saving money or to do a budget because you know you'll drop it at some point. And so this though, although you might be that person that is frustrated with traditional consistency, just know that cycle syncing and energetic consistency is not a fast track happiness where you're not going to feel frustrated. No, this also requires a lot of patience. Patience to be with yourself, right? Patience to be discovering yourself more and more and finding new things and going back to the same patterns. The same patterns are going to show up again, but you're going to have a different consciousness about it, and you'll little by little be able to make new decisions about it. So I hope this was helpful for you, and noticing what works for you. Okay, like honestly, I realize none of the traditional consistent strategies or methodologies, where I'm forcing myself to doing some work that I don't want to do, really feels good or works for me. So I hope this new vision for you, it's a suggestion that you want to consider to start involving yourself in it and to start discovering about it in yourself. There's more to it, okay? We worked a lot of it internally and we find a lot of it. So like, what type, like for example, I'm a variety type, I'm a procrastinator type. I know how to work with all of those things. I know how to install them in my habits. All of those things are all linked to my cycles and my personality and so on. So if you want some help or some guidance finding that about yourself, I'm here. If not, at least giving yourself this time to reflect and figuring out and finding out, how can I keep switching and integrate more energetic consistency in my life? I hope this was really helpful. And I see you next Monday for another Beneath the Surface right here at 6:30 p.m. on Instagram and on YouTube. Take care, everyone.